What's up, Elevate fam? We are here for Doc Talks
I think it's number 7. Old number 7.
7. And this time we're going to be talking about, I know everyone's really excited, especially us, that the gym got open again. So gyms are now seeing clients and they're getting better, they're getting stronger again. We just want to give you a couple of guidelines on what it looks like getting back into a gym and not getting too crazy too fast.
Yes, because the last thing we want is for you to get excited and get ready and go get after it, and then after 1 week you're in to see one of us fine folks.
Yeah.
We want to keep you out there as long as possible.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to be off the gym for 3 months and then only get 1 week back before you are off the gym again. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to progress, what to think about, some concepts that will help you transition better from maybe not being in a gym or not lifting weights to getting back into that a little bit more efficiently. So first topic, we're going to talk about load management. So load management, we have to make sure that we are checking our ego at the door. That's really important. One thing that I see commonly over and over, and if you've seen any of our videos in the past, which you can look at on elevatesph.com, and they're going to be on there on some of the blogs, we always talk about gradually exposing ourselves to load again or to resistance training. So if we enter back into the gym and we think that we're going to be exactly where we were at 3 months ago, we're going to be sorely mistaken. Literally going to be sorely mistaken. So don't make that mistake. Make sure that you check your ego at the door and you listen to a coach. Listen to someone that is telling you to go maybe a little bit easier before we graduate back into where we were at.
Think of it this way. Casinos are opening up this week, right? And if you've been in the quarantine, you might not have been partying at your normal amount. And if you go to the casino and you're gambling all this stuff and you go ham on the drinks that they give you so they can take more money from you, you're probably not going to be feeling well the next day.
And you're going to lose a lot of money.
And you're going to lose a lot of money. And the reason why that is because if you're not used to drinking regularly, which we aren't condoning, your body has yet to build up tolerance to the alcohol. Your body works the same exact way when we're discussing movement, whether it's in the weight room or any activity. So it's incredibly important in order to stay healthy and continue to train on a consistent long-term basis that you slowly ramp up your activity levels as you go into the gym. And if you do that, you'll have a much more successful time with your return to the gym.
Yep. So first thing, check the ego at the door. Don't expect PRs your first week or your first exercise. Don't think that you're going to be back exactly where you're at before. Graduate back into it. Make sure that you're having fun that first week because you're back in it, but don't just get too excited where you're trying to throw around the most heavy weight. Don't be that guy. In addition to that, so when we're looking at warm-ups or cooldowns, we want to spend more time there than we have in the past. Like once you get into the rhythm of things, you're a little bit quicker with your warm-up because your body's used to moving. It's used to feeling kind of loose and getting into the movements a little bit quicker. If you haven't been doing that for 3 months, yes, that's the time that you want to start building that stuff up a little bit more in terms of programming. So warming up, you want to go through those joint ranges of motion that you haven't been. If you're sitting in a chair just like this for 3 months, we want to make sure that the hips, the spine, they all understand movement again. A lot of times when we're programming on the gym side, we will take someone through a big range of motion, but we'll go through really slow so that their body can kind of get used to it and they can feel like what options they have available for movement. That's really important to understand. What kind of options do you have? Is your hip feeling really tight that day? Is it really hard to get into some rotation of your hip, some movement of your arm? Just knowing that ahead of time before you start loading it, very, very important. Very, very important.
Yeah. It's a great way to check in with yourself and see where you're at, because if you have a hip that's a little bit tighter, perhaps your coach or yourself, if you're training by yourself, you can focus on doing more activities to warm up that area. And you also want to think of this too. The way we design warm-ups is to prepare you for whatever it is that you're trying to do out there. So if if today is squat day, we're going to do things that replicate the squat, but at a lower intensity and allow you to focus a little bit more on your technique and getting your body and your joints into the positions that they need to be into in order to squat well without any pain or discomfort.
Yeah. Success would be someone that goes through those range of motion very slow and understands what they have that day, and then they train in that, and then they progress from there. They'll get better and better with each warm-up that they do, with each training session that they do, they'll get better. And so we talk about cool down too. Cool down takes a little bit more time. Focus on breathing, get yourself back down to a kind of a steady state so you don't leave feeling super ramped up and then your body just gets nice and cold and kind of stiff. So cool down, warm up, make those things a little bit more of your full day's worth of training. Make the training maybe a little bit shorter, and you'll again see success with warm ups and cool downs being higher. Next, we're going to look at kind of like the spectrum of movement. What needs to happen when you're actually you're past your warm up, and now you're getting into some more of your training. What does the training look like on the front end of your program and getting back into the gym? We want to think slow to fast. So this big spectrum of slow's over here, fast is over here. We want to do a lot more things that are closer to the slow version of the movement. So whether that's a isometric, meaning we're not actually creating movement, we're just contracting the muscles, or we're having very slow movements so our body can accept those loads. Those are very good ways to think about the static version or the spectrum of being close to slower movement.
Yeah, it's just like this. If you wanted to run the 100-meter dash competitively and you haven't sprinted in decades, you probably do not want to start with an all-out 100-meter dash unless you want to rip your hamstring off the bone and then work with Kyle or myself after it's all said and done.
Not good, not fun.
No, so you would start with slower intensity and low intensity activities and then slowly ramp up your speed so you can tolerate that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we used squatting as an example, what you might do is, and you can do this as part of your warm-up or maybe some of the earlier sets, is you do some type of supported squat hold position. That would be the isometric that Kyle's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could also do a slow tempo activity where you're just going 3-second lower, 3-second raise, really feeling the burn. If you need a mantra, I tell my clients to say, Zach's a jerk on the way down and Zach's a jerk on the way up at that pace. If you're asking why do I say that, try 10 of those at a 3 down, 3 up tempo, and then you'll understand why.
He has a funny way of making things burn very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So looking at static compared to dynamic. So focus on the slow movements, progressively getting into the faster, more dynamic movements as you get through weeks of training. Don't think that's going to start, week 1, week 2, week 3. You're going to build back up into that stuff, and you'll get, hopefully the right coaching on progression through there. We definitely train all of our coaches to understand that when someone's either been injured or they're coming back from not training for a long time, we have to make sure that happens. So volume and intensity, again, we're going to think maybe a little bit more volume with lower weights, so that your body again gets used to moving again, and then we start kind of switching that up as you start to build strength, and then we can maybe decrease the volume, have your focus be a little bit more on technique and moving a significant amount of weight, and then the volume's going to go down at that point, so you can work truly on strength. But on the beginning, we want to make sure that we're just comfortable moving.
Yeah. So volume being the total amount of activity that you do. Mm-hmm. If you're working at a low intensity or you're doing things slow like I had demoed before, your body can generally tolerate a lot more of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't want to throw too much too soon, because then that's when you could run into issues.
That happy medium.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, when you're doing something that's moving a lot of weight or you're moving fast at fast paces or speeds, your body generally can't do that for as long of a period of time. So the amount of activity that we do of that is going to be lower. Right? If I go back to the 100-meter dash as an example, you can't run 10 100-meter dashes at a consistently fast pace in a given day.
Yeah.
But you might be able to do a couple miles if you're trained, and you could sustain a slower pace for a longer period of time. Same principles here. What we don't want to do is one of three things. We don't want to throw a bunch of workload at you right in the beginning, even if it's low intensity, because you could get hurt. We don't want to push you to doing something that's too heavy or too fast, because you could get hurt. Or the worst combination, doing a lot of activity at a high intensity or with large amounts of weight.
Those are the ego guys.
Yeah, aka the recipe for disaster, aka you're going to be seeing Kyle or me. So we want to try and minimize that as much as possible.
Yep. Just trying to really focus on some of those first key points. So we got load management, warm-ups and cool-downs, and then trying to feel out that spectrum, starting static to dynamic.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, now I remember what I was going to say, if you have been off for a while, you might want to, and I mean, if you haven't trained like during the quarantine period, you might want to spend anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks on that slow, low-intensity side of things. And it will be challenging, especially if you try some of that tempo stuff. But it's going to really set you up for success when you do want to move heavy weight or move things fast and do so with good technique. Yeah. So don't be afraid to slow cook the brisket if you want it to turn out good.
So in addition to that, we're talking about conditioning next. So conditioning has this funky way of making us move really poor or not have the right focus or thought process if it's a really low amount of conditioning that a client has. So if they get gassed during a warm-up, like gassed, they're doing stretches and they're like sweating and panting, we know that the rest of the time they probably won't be able to focus on a good squat or a good deadlift or any of those types of mechanics that we really want to focus on, because they're sitting there trying to breathe. They're just sitting there, oh my gosh, I can't breathe, and they can't catch up. So building this base level of conditioning, it's generally called GPP, General Physical Preparedness. We want to have this raise up a little bit before we start training pretty high with weights and doing stuff that's going to be high technical difficulty. So technicality on the front end of programming too. We didn't really we didn't put this as a bullet point, but that could also be something that's going to be pretty low. We want to have low technical moves, not a lot of big full body movements potentially, but nothing that you have to focus really, really hard on, because we're trying to build that base level up slowly, and then we start getting into more advanced techniques. So conditioning, make sure that is something that you really focus on, trying to get your base level higher and higher with each exercise bout that you're getting into.
And when we're talking about conditioning, the rules that we discussed before with doing low intensity, larger amounts of work to high intensity, it still rings true here. This doesn't mean you're doing suicides on the basketball court until you puke, or pushing the sled until you puke. Conditioning in the early phases could be just as simple as on your off days going for a longer walk or even a hike. Don't be afraid to walk for 30 to 60 minutes at a moderate pace. Yeah. And then you can, as Kyle likes to do, progress that to ruck walking, where you're holding onto something, or you have something like a heavy vest, or I don't know what else.
You could put backpack, you could put, anything that you want to kind of load your body a little bit more. It's going to just burn more calories. Your muscles are going to have to work a little bit harder, but your body gets used to metabolizing at a faster rate. And that's what we're not good at probably right now. We're 3 months of not metabolizing fast and looking at a computer screen. We're just not good at that yet. So the more stimulus that you get of that, the quicker you're going to build up that conditioning level to where you can get after it and start moving some weight. So like Zach was saying, getting those little things that you don't feel like you're completely exhausted. You're going on a walk, a 30-minute walk, a ruck. Those things don't make you pant potentially, but your body's gonna start responding with having a better, well-rounded machine to give yourself energy. If that's what you want. Your body metabolizes it, and it gives your muscles and all that stuff energy. That's what you want. You want that stuff to be turning over at a higher rate. So that's a good way to do it. Easy stuff, walking and rucking, and it's rucking. RUCK. I'm not saying a bad word here. I just want to make sure I'm enunciating right to you guys. But
bad words are for after the camera's off. Also, too, if that's not your thing because it's getting really hot and you don't want to be outside. I don't get that actually, because I moved here for the heat. But if you want more indoor options, doing anything where you're not or minimally weight bearing is very worthwhile. So things like biking, using the elliptical, doing the rower for time, and you could do the same time frames that we talked about. I mean, as low as 20 minutes to as high as 60 or even 90 minutes. Just making sure you keep it at a conversational pace. So by that, you should be able to carry on a conversation if someone was 6 feet away from you doing the same thing. Or, you want that. You shouldn't be able to sing, though.
6 feet?
Yeah, we're totally not doing that. But actually, camera tricks, we are 6 feet away. No. But you should not be able to sing a song, as an example. So you want to get a little bit of the blood flow going, but not too much to where you have to talk like that. So
no
carry
sectional sentences.
Yes.
In addition to that, we didn't really talk too much about pain or anything like that, other than having risk of injury because of this stuff. But when we look at the endorphin rush that you get when you feel like you've gotten a little bit of a sweat and you've walked and all that kind of stuff, I have patients that I program all the time. In addition to the specific rehab that we do, I want you to introduce 5-minute brisk walks. I want you to introduce 10, 15-minute brisk walks. That overall makes our body metabolize and heal better and faster. So those things can help with pain, they can help with preparedness, they can help with your conditioning. So don't underestimate the power of just walking or loaded walks or something that's going to be kind of non weight bearing movements. So those can be definitely very helpful.
Yep. Should we cover?
Yeah.
So aside from, we spent most of this discussing movement, but there are a lot of other things at your disposal that you can do to support returning to the gym safely and with few issues. And that's making sure you have many of the other basics of your health and wellness mastered. So sleep. You're going to be more active now. You're going to need more recovery to deal with this activity, even if you are doing it at a low intensity. So it's important that you are prioritizing sleep. And if you're a busy person and it's unreasonable or unrealistic to have you stretch out the hours, maybe you're only sleeping 6 hours. Ideally you should be sleeping anywhere from 7 to 9, but if you can't hit that because of your schedule, you're working long hours, kids are yelling at you, so on and so forth, you can still do things to improve the quality of sleep. That includes making sure you're getting sun exposure in the morning, so when you first get up, get outside, breathe in the lovely Las Vegas weather. Do that first. That will help you sleeping at nighttime, as well as making sure you're not spending a lot of time on screens before bed. You have a relatively cool room that you're sleeping in, and everything is as dark as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another thing for some patients that we've treated is writing down tasks. If you think you have a million things going on through your head and you just can't shut off, writing some of that stuff down, getting it on a piece of paper, and knowing it's going to be right there when you wake up so you don't forget about it, that can definitely help. Or you put it in another room or you put it somewhere else, but you can go back to that so you don't think, oh, I can't forget about this stuff, and then that messes up your sleep too. That can be really helpful to write some of that stuff down, get it out of your mind, get it onto a piece of paper so you can have a little bit better quality sleep, like Zach was saying. Eating, nutrition-wise, you want to have good fuel into your body. This is paramount for rebuilding, especially if you're feeling the DOMS, the soreness that comes in after your first couple weeks of training. It is real. It is very real. Anytime you get back into a new exercise routine or something that you haven't done for a while, those are going to be introductions of stress to certain areas, and you will probably feel a significant amount of soreness. What you put into your body, whether it's nutrition, hydration, that is going to be very important for getting you out of stacking soreness on top of soreness on top of soreness on top of soreness. So if you can get the proper nutrition, get your lean meats, you're getting your good proteins, you're getting a well-balanced diet. We're not going to go into all the specifics of eating well, because everyone has their own nutrition and they have their own ways of getting their own nutrition, but that has to be a priority. You have to make sure that that's actually being taken care of. If you're going to Carl's Jr. every time after a workout, that'll catch up to you.
Mm-hmm.
It'll definitely catch up to you with probably decreasing the sleep, but also the quality of food is just not there for you to rebuild, get the proteins, get the soreness kind of pushed out of your body a little bit quicker.
Yep. Just make sure you're eating whole foods.
Whole foods.
Good rule of thumb, regardless of your dietary preference, is the fewer ingredients in what you are consuming, the better.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Now, you might be wondering, well, the docs, they talked about a good warm-up and all that stuff, and I want to make sure I'm doing the best thing possible so I can return to the gym safely. We have devised the ultimate, yes folks, the ultimate warm-up that you can use. It's simply 4 moves. If you do these 4 moves before you get into the gym, you're going to be set up. You're going to hit most of the body parts that you need to be able to perform at a high level, and you should be set up for success with your return to the gym.
These are ones that we really like for getting the entirety of your body at least feeling ranges of motion. So we looked at the spine, we looked at the shoulders, we looked at the hips, we looked at all those places, and really trying to get you prepared for anything that's thrown at you in your workout routine. So first one's up. This is an awesome one. I love the name.
Well, and I'm a little sad right now because usually I try to kill Kyle every week with some moves, but these moves are fairly easy, so I'm a little let down by that. The first move, though, is one that I affectionately call the drunken turtle. And Kyle, I'm going to have you do this move, so if you could have a seat on the mat.
Head this way?
Yeah, you could just be like right here is where I would be. Or actually, I would scoot down then if you're going to face that way. And so this is a great move to improve mobility of your entire backside. It's also the bottom of a really deep squat. So it's a good way to prep for squatting as well if that's what you got on your day. So what Kyle's going to do is he's going to go ahead and grab about mid-shin, but bring your knees to your chest. And you don't want your knees spread out. You want them not necessarily squeezing together, but you want them pretty close together. And all you're going to do is you're going to roll back as far as you possibly can and then use momentum to bring you forward. So try to roll back as far as you can, and then come back up, keeping your knees glued to your chest. Go ahead and kick out about 30 of them.
30? Come on now. Jeez.
I would do like a few rounds of 5 to 10 of these. But all Kyle's doing is he's rolling his back and forth as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, I like that one. It definitely gets your body kind of to have full tension though too, so your muscles are squeezing, not just getting mobilized, and it gets, like you said, into a really deep squat. I think it's really good for opening up the upper back, really good at getting into your hips. Very, very good one.
Oh, cool.
So drunken turtle, and then we're looking at the world's greatest stretch here next. When we're talking about getting our hips to mobilize, and then we're also getting our thoracic spine, our upper back to rotate, this is a perfect one for that. So if you've been sitting at the computer for a long time and you're doing one of these, we're going to see if we can get it open up the pec a little bit, and then also get the hips going. So Zach, I'm going to have you get into kind of like a lunge position, so one leg forward, one leg back. So from here, as you can see, the backside hip is going into what's called extension. This one's going into flexion, so we're getting a lot of movement in the hips. What I typically like to do is tell people to squeeze that backside hip and push their hip actually forward. So they're bringing their hip closer to the ground. Act like you're trying to push your tail or your pelvis.
Are you talking about this one?
Oh, nope, this one.
This one, okay.
Back here. So
I'm going to do that.
his backside hip, so he's getting a little bit of a glute squeeze there, and his hips are getting closer to the ground, so getting more and more stretch through there. Now we're going to use this hand that's on the ground already.
My hand is here. It's supported just like so.
Perfect. So it's going to be on the ground. We're going to use that as support, and we're going to actually push the ground away with that hand, and we're going to lift and look towards the sky, rotating our hand. We're getting good thoracic and upper back movements, just getting the whole spine to kind of ring out, and then we're really trying to get more and more stretch because we're getting a little bit of pec and opening up. So if we're here all day, we're getting to a little bit more reach, open up the pec. Big full body movement there, but it hits a lot of stuff for us. So that's your world's greatest stretch. You can go through repetitions of that, or you can hold so you can get down, you can open up, use your breath as you come back, and then open up again. So that's one of the ones that we generally have in almost all of our classes because it is a really, really great full body stretch.
Yeah, and you can even alternate and make it really nice and dynamic, going back and forth.
A lot of variations of this one.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So when we look at the squat, we're going to look at the ankles a little bit here. So when we get down to the bottom of a squat, our ankles can hopefully be pretty loose. And then if we're running, if we're jumping, if we're doing any of that kind of stuff, we want to have our ankles be nice and loose. So Zach, could I have you just be my anchor here? So you're just going to sit there. You're not really doing too much.
I'm doing a lot.
So I'm going to put my hands onto something that's going to be nice and firm and stable. And then I'm going to drop down into a squat. And I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to rock from side to side, getting my ankles to be nice and loose. So what I'm trying to do is push my knees kind of over my toes. Over my toes. I don't know if anybody's been told not to squat with your knees over your toes, but that's okay for you to do it, especially if you're mobilizing your ankles. That's totally fine. Try to keep your feet glued to the ground, rocking back and forth. And then you can also use your elbows to push your hips out a little bit. That'll help open up the groin a little. And then we could breathe deep into this downside bottom position. So also kind of looks a little bit like the drunken turtle, except our knees are actually wide this time. So we're getting a little bit more space between our knees, opening up our groin. So supported squat, rocking back and forth. Some people refer to it as a prize squat. Really good for opening up the ankles, opening up the hips.
And could you show a front view of that just so they can see just how wide you are in comparison to, if you need a hand?
I got it. I think so. Once you get decently good at this and you have okay ankles, you can get down to the bottom and you can rock into this way. So you're pushing out against your thighs, and then you're rocking from side to side, getting your ankles to mobilize a little bit. That's your supported squat.
The last move is a great one to kind of bring it all together. It works on improving your single leg mobility, stretches out your back, allows you to work the abs. We call this one a cross-connect walk. You don't necessarily have to walk, but you could do it in person. So Kyle, I'm going to have you stand right there. Basically, Kyle, go ahead and face the screen. And so all you're going to do is Kyle's going to bring one leg up as high as he can, like he's going to sprint. He's going to take the opposite elbow and touch his knee with it. Right there, if you take a breath of air in, you should feel a nice stretch in your upper back. And then you're just going to alternate and do the other side. You can do this in place, or you can do this walking up and down. You know, at Elevate, we have people do this up and down on our turf. And if you really want to get fancy, you could go up into a march position where you're going up on the tippy toe, so you get a little calf raise.
I don't know if I'm that coordinated, but I'll give it a shot. So we're going wrong now.
And then up on the, yep, there you go.
I would have to walk.
So yeah, but it's just up and down like that.
A lot of coordination, balance. So if we're talking about warming up, those are your big four: drunken turtle, world's greatest squat, supported squat, or world's greatest stretch. Sorry, world's greatest stretch, supported squat, and then cross connect walks. We think it hits all of the big areas that we need to hit for getting the body prepped for moving weights, doing what we need to do to get strong in the gym.
And your squat may have been the world's greatest, the supported one. I'm just saying.
Well,
just saying.
I mean, it's because of you.
This guy.
Drunken turtle. That's what got my squat down.
That's all it was. That's all it was.
So, just to recap: load management, warm-ups and cool-downs, going from static to dynamic, meaning going slow to fast, really working on conditioning. Recover well, do the basics well, eat, sleep, drink well, and then warm up with our warm-ups, and you won't be having to see us for the beginning portions of your introduction to your gym.
Awesome. Have a safe return to the gym. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment either on Instagram, or if you check out the high-quality version on our website, check us out there, or on YouTube. We are here to help you. We opened this week, so we're pretty jazzed up. If you need to see us, whether it's for training or whether it's for the rehab side of things, because you caught this video too late, you've already hurt yourself, and you want to return to the gym safely, we're here to help you, especially if you're in the Las Vegas area or if you want to work with us remotely. And our contact info will be in show notes.
Cool. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We'll be back next week, Wednesday, 2 p.m., and we'll get the announcement out to you guys Monday. See you then.
Happy training.